My people, welcome back to your favorite U&I Talk show with Louise UWACU. Today, we're going natural on you, okay? It's medical, but natural. Stay tuned. All right, my people, thank you for being here every week. This week, my people, I am in green, and we're talking to Dr. Jason KLOP. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, let's clear up the fact that you look so young, so fresh. Are you a real doctor?
I am, and I think maybe in part thanks to your makeup crew.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So you really did go to medical school?
Yes, I did. I did it all in quick succession, though. I graduated high school. From high school, got my Bachelor's of Science degree, which is 4 to 5 years, depending on how ambitious you are, and then 4 years of medical school. And so that's, that adds up to about, well, I'm actually turning 28 in a week.
Wow. That is so amazing. So what is a naturopathic doctor?
Well, like you say, it's a naturopathic doctor. If you kind of break down the word natural and pathic, we really focus on using natural or more alternative treatments to assist patients in overcoming whatever illness they're being presented with. And so that's the sort of premise of it, and really having a belief that the patient has the ability in themselves, within their bodies, to heal themselves. We're just giving them outside agents to sort of move that process on a little bit quicker, whether it's dietary intervention, acupuncture, homeopathic medicine, adjustment type therapies, and more.
So you're the kind of doctor that's telling patients that they don't need you?
Basically, yeah. I try to put myself out of business.
What is that? Aren't you supposed to be like prescribing me medication? Like, were you trying to heal me?
Yeah, that's the idea, yes. I mean, in BC anyways, it depends on what province you're in. We do have the ability to prescribe medications, but we try to go from the lowest intervention and work it up from there. So some people think that, medical doctors and naturopathic doctors are kind of against each other, but in fact, working together is really the ultimate way to go. And so being able to, start with lower interventions and as necessary move up the ladder. Medications and surgery are much higher on the ladder than, say, acupuncture or nutrition intervention or supplementation or more.
I see. So first of all, why were you interested in becoming a doctor? And then while you're becoming a doctor, why did you go into this branch? It's not such a popular thing.
It's not, but the reason that I got into it was when I was about 15, I had an acute illness. And when I had this illness, my parents took me to a traditional medical doctor. And the doctor told me, you've got this illness, we can't do anything about it, go home, rest. In about a year's time, you'll be back to normal, you'll have the energy like you used to. My parents, not being satisfied with that answer, took me to a naturopathic doctor, gave me a pretty standard treatment, and within 3 days I was back to normal, 100% active. And it was at that time where I knew I really needed to work with people who had that in their lives. They didn't have somebody who believed in them or didn't have an intervention that was just, may not have had the same depth of research, but was very, very useful.
This is interesting. How old were you at that time?
15.
15. So at 15, you're already conscious that you would love to do something like this. And let's tell people that you grew up on a farm.
Yes, yes. And so as the story goes, it started, my interest was always around animals and working with animals. And I was very drawn to working with the sick animals, the animals that just need a little more tender, loving care. And it was when I was 15 and got that opportunity to really have my health and life changed around that quickly that I decided to take the care for animals and sort of move it up higher in the food chain to working with humans where I could have more of an impact and make a bigger difference that way.
So where was this farm, and how is it today? You live in a big city. Do you miss the simpler life?
I do, yes. I grew up in Chilliwack, British Columbia. It was a dairy farm. It was a small, family farm in comparison to some of the very, very large farms out there. And Yes, I do miss Chilliwack sometimes. I miss sort of the simple life, not people running over each other all over the place. But there's times where we've got Stanley Park here. We've got all these beautiful ways to step back into nature, which in and of itself is a very healing part of getting over illness as well.
Yeah. So before we talk about the special thing that you have about treating humans, how is it going from being interested in animals and then humans? Are we like the animals? Are we like, what do you like more, or?
Well, I like the ability to, have an interaction,
Okay.
communication with humans is obviously, you can go a little deeper, and I'm very drawn to the emotional side because I think there's such a huge emotional component to illnesses, especially chronic diseases. They didn't just pop up overnight. Usually there's been, something's been going on in the background, whether it's stress, whether it's, dietary, there's so many variables. And so someone doesn't just have a heart attack. Someone doesn't just get cancer. They might just get diagnosed or suddenly have the symptoms, but it was something that built up over many, many years. And so a naturopathic doctor is a big part of our work is preventative medicine. So working with people to prevent these types of things from occurring in the first place.
I see. So you like the fact that with humans, you can talk to them versus, for example, a cow. The cow is not going to tell you what's going on with it.
Totally, totally. I think that's a big part. The other side that I think is really drawing me to working with humans as well is that if you can impact someone's health and impact their life and make them show up in a bigger way, doing more purposeful work, more meaningful work, more engaging work, then they're going to have a greater impact on this world as well. So for me, it really comes down to how can I help assist people in changing their lives, not only their health, but the bigger picture of what their life looks like, so that they can then have ripples and impact more and more people. So for me, it comes down to humanity and how could I make a bigger difference and really move this world to where my kids and my grandkids can have the type of world that I potentially had grown up in.
I like that. All right, let's take a short break and then we'll come back and keep talking about that. U&I Talk Show with Louise UWACU. We love you, the authors, the musicians, the comedians, the entrepreneurs, and all other talented and inspiring people. Please contact info@uwacu.com to be a guest on the show. My people, we're back and we're still talking to Dr. Jason KLOP. So you have something that is so interesting, a sentence, transitions and transformations are your creations. And then you say that you realize that when people are living a life of purpose. Tell us about, as a doctor and in your field, what you have discovered makes the difference in people's lives when they're sick,
I'd love to. That's something I'm very passionate about, and I feel my purpose is to help others realize and live their purpose so that they can live fully and healthfully while inspiring others to do the same. So when I was working with patients, I realized that unless they really had a true sense of what their purpose was in life, they were doing something that was meaningful, engaging, and fully utilizing their strengths and their talents, they would get or stay sick. And when I was presented with this sort of paradox, I was really sort of shocked. And like any good doctor, I'd go back to the research and started looking at the research around purpose and meaning and fulfillment and all of these different things. And when I did, I came upon some research that illustrated that people who had purpose in life, and they studied people over between the ages of 20 to 75, which I imagine is a large portion of your audience, and the people that lacked a purpose in their life died sooner. And so that's big news. And so from a naturopathic perspective or from a health perspective, you can help people, but if you can really help them get their purpose in line, that will really impact their health, their life satisfaction, their stress levels. And stress, we can talk about that as something that really brings in a lot of people into practices and into hospitals to begin with.
Wow, this is so fascinating, because how many people really think about purpose? A lot of people are just doing what they're doing, but the idea of thinking about an overall purpose that's driving you, do you find it's so common?
Well, actually, it sort of breaks down into three categories. So as it relates to jobs, let's say, or careers, there's a job orientation, a career orientation, and a calling orientation. So the people that are in the job orientation are more interested in getting money and just using their job as a means to afford the luxuries that they want in their lives. versus a career orientation, it's more about the ladder. How can I gain prestige? How can I go up higher and make more money? And how can I, sort of climb the corporate ladder, so to speak? And the calling orientation is doing something that's really meaningful to you, that you enjoy, that is sort of a part of your identity, who you are. It really integrates well with family, with friends, the people at your work are your friends and family, and vice versa. And so it's much more of an integration, and those are the people that are living purposeful lives, they're living meaningful lives, and that's fulfilled through their work. So their work and their lives are kind of one.
I see. Wow, that's so fascinating, because you expect doctors to be so like medical, right? But this is like philosophy or what?
I suppose. Maybe it goes back a little bit to my time as a child and being on a farm, because we talked about communication. With animals, it's so much about observation. You need to observe how an animal is presenting itself, whether it's sick, whether it's limping, whether it's, needing to be inseminated or anything else. And so observation is a big part of it, and that translates into medicine. And so just observing by watching patients and realizing what sort of separates the two, what really moves people forward and what's holding people back. So depression or anxiety, these things are things that relate to stress, and not having a clear vision of what you want in life moving forward. That's stressful, that's scary, and that'll impact your life. But if you have a purpose, that's something that can drive you and move you forward, take you through challenges, take you through obstacles, that can overcome things that you might be presented with along the way. And that also translates into health, because regardless of what you're into, whether you trip and stumble and hurt your knee, there's a lot of rehab and these types of things, but really understanding that you're working towards something that's greater than yourself. That's really the forward momentum that we're looking for.
I see. So if I break my knee, and then I'm the type of person, I'm not doing anything, I don't really care, then it's gonna take so much longer for my knee to heal versus a person who's breaking their knee saying, I gotta go do this, go do that.
Totally. I mean, now the research is really clear on post-rehab. So it used to be, for example, you get a knee replacement or something like that. It was just like put a cast on them, leave them be. But now in hospitals, they're getting them up walking very quickly so that they can get that movement, get the blood flowing. But that's sort of from more of the medical perspective. But let's say you were into sports, you'd have a reason, you'd have a purpose to want to get active again, versus just being, wanting to sit around and not really having a purpose or a desire to do more than you currently are.
Wow. So did this then give you purpose? Did you have purpose before you went into this, or did you discover this then have that purpose?
I think it evolved over time. I think it started from wanting to help people to really overcome the challenges in their life. And so that's the essence of it, is still existing and helping people live healthy and fulfilling lives. That's still there, but really understanding that it was purpose and helping people connect to that purpose, that I think is a more recent sort of evolution. And when I talk about purpose, I think it's something that you're born with. So it's something, not necessarily born with, but you uncover it. So people are like, I'm trying to find my purpose. I don't know, what it is. I'm looking for it. But that implies you lost it.
Yeah.
You haven't lost it. You just need to uncover it. And your purpose is something that's steady, but how you fulfill it through your career, through your job, and in your life, that can change.
So your purpose, you already have it. And then how you bring it to life can change depending on what you're doing. Like, for example, give me an example.
Your purpose is something that's fulfilled. So for me, working in healthcare and helping people to connect to what their purpose is, that fulfills me, because that drives me, that fulfills that side of me that wants to get people to feel better and live better, more meaningful and fulfilled lives. So from that perspective, you might have a desire to educate people. And so you're using media as a means to do that. And so that can change though. You could decide to do that as a teacher. You could decide to do that in a TV show. There's many avenues to fulfill what ultimately is your purpose.
Yes, and we're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about how you can educate so many more people through what you're doing. U&I Talk Show with Louise UWACU. We love you, the authors, the musicians, the comedians, the entrepreneurs, and all other talented and inspiring people. Please contact info@uwacu.com to be a guest on the show. My people, we're back. We hope you have a purpose in your life, because apparently this is what will keep you alive, literally save your life. So you started radio podcasting, even though you're a doctor. Is this part of that purpose to reach more people?
Totally, yes. I sort of did the math on it. And I thought, okay, if I'm really busy and I see 8, let's say 15 people at max per day, working 5 days a week, over a career, that's thousands of people. And that's great, that's wonderful. You know, you can make a big difference with that. But I wanted to make a bigger impact, a bigger splash, impact millions of people. And so choosing a medium like podcasting is a big reason that that's possible. So when I look at download numbers now, people are all over the world. People are in India, the Philippines, you know, China, throughout Europe, largely in North America, but it really is, it's spread, and it's really a medium to that end.
And how are you healing people through your podcast?
I think a big part of it is just educating them that they need to, you know, get in touch with what their purpose is and live through that. In addition to that, I also interview people who have faced challenges in their life and have used that challenge and the learning that was gained through moving through that challenge to then educate and assist other people through moving through their challenges. So I think when it comes to what a purpose is and how you can determine what that exactly is, I see it as the highs and lows in your life, the ups and downs. So it might be something that's really great and something really challenging. And that up and down throughout life, what connects those two is where your purpose is, and that is then what drives you forward.
And then you also have like 95% of your patients, you say, is about stress.
Yeah, that's a big, like statistically, they say 80 to 90% of patients see doctors, go to clinics for stress-related illnesses. And so that's a big, big thing. And so the way that I look at it is, are you in a relationship that's not fulfilling? Are you doing work that's not meaningful? Are you in any way living a life that's not in some way fulfilling? And if you're not, that's going to be a big, big component of stress. Now there's other components as well, like the environment can be stressful. The foods you're consuming can be stressful on your body. So there's other components, but that's a big one, and that's one that I really focused on.
So what is stress, because people always hear about it, oh, I'm stressed. People have a little something, I'm stressed. But what is stress really?
I think it really depends. Stress is really your perception of the environment around you. But we are now presented with an environment that's continually bombarding us. And it's not necessarily negative things, although that's a big part of it, but we have cars zooming by, we've got phones buzzing all throughout the day and potentially the night. There's so many things that are stressing us and stressing our system and pushing us into a fight or flight or a sympathetic state. And in that state, we're not able to heal. We're not able to think rationally and think creatively. And so in that state, that's really affecting our health, and it comes down to a hormone perspective. And there's all these other components that are at play when your system's in a fight or flight, like there's a cougar after me, versus in a rest and digest and really take things in and really see things for how they are.
This is so interesting. So you're saying, like, being in the green, wearing green is good? Just being in the green.
Sure, why not?
Going out there, being in the green, this is what eliminates stress. How can people then eliminate stress? What do you recommend to?
Well, I think a big thing is doing work that's purposeful, that's meaningful, that's engaging.
So that already
huge.
takes off all your stress away. If you're doing work that's purposeful, that's already what you need to do.
Well, because you're not going to hate Monday and love Fridays, right? And if you look at when do most heart attacks happen, they happen on Monday mornings at 8 o'clock.
No.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I trust you because you're a doctor.
So, and additionally, so that would be a big part of it. But then again, doing things that you love, that you enjoy. And so getting your priorities straight in life. And so was that spending time with family? Is that doing sports? Is, what to you is something that's fulfilling and meaningful to you in your life? As well as getting out in nature and doing some of the things that are regenerative and restoring you in your sort of wholeness.
So if you hate Mondays and love Fridays, that's a very bad sign for your life.
I would imagine so. I mean, about a third of your life is spent, in the workforce. And so if that's how you want to spend a third of your waking time, that's your choice. But I'd rather, do something that's, more meaningful and that I can enjoy, and that I don't really realize when Mondays are, when Wednesdays are. I work Saturdays and Sundays. It doesn't, there's no difference to me.
Nice, because you're working within your purpose and you're doing what you love and what you want to do. So how does religion come into it? Because what you're saying sounds a little bit spiritual, you know, but you always expect like medical people to be so separate from the spiritual aspect of life. But so what is that?
I don't see it from a spiritual perspective, at least the purpose side of it. I know from a historical standpoint, in biblical times, they talked about a calling, and so, you know, they may have been called by God or some figure to do something that was meaningful. And so you could take it from that perspective. And I think that, you know, mind, body, and spirit are definitely something that's integrated, and it's a very important component, and a component that's very overlooked in the traditional medical model is just treating people for their symptoms, how they're showing up, not some of the background things. And so I believe that we're all connected to something greater, and how you see that and how you decide to connect with that is sort of your prerogative.
Doctors don't usually believe in that, because you believe that you're treating something and you know what you're doing and you trust in your medical abilities and the medication. You know, the idea that some other outside force is going to come in and help you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say one way or the other whether I think that's the case, but there's people who say that is the case for them. And in that instance, it's my job to honor that. It's not my job to, you know, say, oh, you need to be religious, or you should go to church, or you should, you know, meditate. That's not really my job. That's not really my description. But if someone has that as a part of what is important for them in overcoming the challenges that they're being presented with, it's my job to honor that, to respect that, and to foster that in them.
All right, let's take our last break and then we'll come back and end this. Thank you for being here. U&I Talk Show with Louise UWACU. We love you, the authors, the musicians, the comedians, the entrepreneurs, and all other talented and inspiring people. Please contact info@uwacu.com to be a guest on the show. We're back, my people. Thank you for being here, Dr. Jason KLOP. So you're a family man.
I am.
You have a wife and 2 babies. Like
one baby,
yeah.
There's one on the way.
Yeah.
We actually just got back this morning from doing an ultrasound, and it comes back that we have a girl, and number 2 is going to be a little boy.
Oh, nice. Yes. That's so beautiful. So what would you suggest to parents and dealing with young children in terms of taking them through the medical system? And what will you do about the vaccination stuff? You know, that's not natural things. What is your prescription?
Well, I think from a parenting perspective, children are observers, and so they see what you do. And so from a health perspective, you know, they see you eating chips, they see you drinking pop, and to expect them not to do that, you know, that's kind of contrary. So I think leading by example is a big part of being involved in your child's health care overall. As it relates to vaccinations, that's in and of itself pretty much a religion. I'm not going to go into the depths on that. It's a very polarized discussion.
Yeah.
I think we do need to recognize, though, that vaccinations have been a big impact on the world and on people living longer, and so that's definitely a big component. But as the debate on, you know, am I on camp A or camp B, I prefer not to get into either camp.
But like for your children for the future, or let's say if I had kids and I asked you for advice, is it really necessary, or can they survive on natural things?
They can survive naturally. I mean, they've done it for thousands of years before, but not as many survived. And so it kind of comes down to a risk and benefit scenario. So are you willing to take the risks? Are you willing to do all of the things that are necessary to ensure health? And if you are, then, you know, you might decide that you're willing to take the risk of getting some of these infections. If you're not, and you're not balancing that out with all of the health perspective things like a good diet with exercise, avoiding sugars, and all these different things that, you know, contribute to illness to begin with, then you're likely to want to, you know, take vaccinations and go that route as well. And so from that perspective, I think my job as a physician is to educate people on both perspectives and make them, you know, from this educational standpoint, use that as a backbone to make their own decisions. So empowering them and giving them the power to direct their own health.
Nice. So what do you see as the future of the medical profession? Is it going more towards your path versus where it has been right now?
I think so.
Because I'm seeing you like you're the future. First of all, looking so young, looking so fresh, dressed up so
Good
nice.
advertising.
You know, is this where the doctors are going? And then talking about natural things, you know?
Well, it's interesting because we talk about alternative medicine, and the camp, naturopathic doctors are considered to be practicing alternative medicine. But the more modern medicine has been around for, got around in the 30s, 40s, and beyond. But alternative medicine has been around for thousands of years. For example, Chinese medicine has been practiced for over 3,000 years. And so from that perspective, it's definitely been around a long time. But how it's moving forward, I think, is more of an integrative process. So realizing that the two have strength and working together, both with the practitioners together and integrating that with the patient care, is a huge, huge part to what's going to be directed to in the future.
You know, I like how you're not throwing the regular medical people under the bus,
Well, hey, I mean, if I broke my leg or if I had an appendicitis that was inflamed and infected, that's the first place I'd go. And I think, someone asked me one time, well, what if someone comes to you with a broken leg? Well, then they go to the doctor, they go to the medical doctor, they go to the emergency. They don't come to me. I'm not dealing with broken legs. I'm not dealing with emergency medicine. That's not what we do. We deal with a lot more chronic care, more digestive health, some of these more preventative type of things, not necessarily with the emergency stuff. And so I think we both have an very important role to play, and by realizing that and overcoming the ego side of medicine and really realizing that if we work together, if we combine forces and wisdom to the patient, so always bring it back to the patient. What's best for my patient?
Yeah.
Is a medication necessary in this instance, or would some other type of therapy be more beneficial or more restorative to that patient? And if so, that's the direction they should go.
I really like that. So let's end up on something very controversial. Marijuana, medical marijuana. Are you supporting it?
I can't say either because as a naturopathic doctor, we do not have the ability to prescribe medical marijuana. I will say that with a lot of research, there's a ton of benefit from a health perspective for medical marijuana. Just for example, with cancer patients who are not able to eat or have a ton of nausea, that can be very beneficial for them. It can be very beneficial in different conditions, but from a prescriptive standpoint, I have no ability to prescribe medical marijuana, and so from that perspective, I'm taking a step back.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. This is the best doctor visit I've ever had.
No shots, no surgery.
Nothing, All right, my people, stay healthy, stay green, but if you need to, go see the regular doctors. Thank you for being with us.